Smart 24, driving business.
Hello there, a very warm welcome to the show. Thank you so much for staying tuned at Smart 24 TV, where we drive your business. My name is Anthony and I am your host. To follow the show, you can go to our social media, and that is on Twitter at Smart 24 TV now. And you can also follow me personally at Anthony Sebale, and of course get feedback through those channels. The show is proudly sponsored by Altex East Africa, your number one trading platform. And with Altex East Africa, we think you can do something new. All you need to do is to go to your phone and dial *292# and experience trading at a whole new level. Trading at Altex opens their gates at exactly 8:30 a.m. and closes at 30 minutes past 3 p.m. East African Standard Time. And to be one of the traders, you can, of course, get to start with as little as 15,000, and with your mobile money wallet, of course, with as little as 15,000, you can transact off your mobile wallet to Altex East Africa. One of the advantages of trading with Altex is accessibility, but also affordability. When you come to realize treasury bonds within the secondary market trades are at least at 100,000 with all fund managers. But with Altex East Africa, we're saying you can start with 15,000, you can start with 20,000. No matter how much you have, you can start investing. Treasury bonds are also the safest and most trusted investments, as of course governments can hardly default. Altex East Africa, you can do something new. Let's, of course, have a look at the trading from yesterday's markets. And starting off with Uganda Securities Exchange. Out of the Uganda Securities Exchange listings, the 18 listings we have on the market, at least 6 of these participated in trade. The day ended, fortunately, with 4 gainers and 6 losers as well. Now, Bank of Baroda Uganda was the biggest gainer for the day after appreciating by 0.69%. and closing off the day at 16.0 Ugandan shillings. Now, on average, Bank of Baroda Uganda has dropped in price by close to, when you look at their 4-week performance, by close to 78% from previously trading at averages of about 75 to 80 shillings to now currently 16 shillings. Now, this drop has been due to their bonus issue that was realized on the 5th of June. On the 5th of June, Bank of Baroda decided to go ahead and issue a bonus issue for their shareholders, and this was through the Uganda Securities Exchange and approval of the Capital Markets Authority. This year, the Minister of Finance, Honorable Matia Kasaija, actually did issue new guidelines on the requirements, the minimum capital requirements for the banks within Uganda, the commercial banks within Uganda. And that, of course, included raising the minimum capital requirements from 25 billion to 150 billion Ugandan shillings. That, of course, led to banks like Bank of Baroda to seek more capital, of course, outside what they had in the previous years. Well, Bank of Baroda in this bid did run to their shareholders and issued a bonus issue of close to 12.5 billion shares at 10 Ugandan shillings on the 5th of June. This particular bonus issue started on the 5th of June and saw the price drop from 75, like I said, to 10 Ugandan shillings. However, they are protected because these bonus shares are only available for the shareholders by then. So if you are not a shareholder of Bank of Baroda Uganda by the 5th of June, you could hardly actually be able to take part in this bonus issue. And so this is why Bank of Baroda stock is currently doing the way it is doing at the moment. The current share price of 16 Ugandan shillings closed yesterday after a gain of 0.7%, approximately gaining from 15.89 Ugandan shillings on Monday. Bank of Baroda Uganda began the year with a price of 85 Ugandan shillings and has since then lost 81.2% of that value as per the current market prices. This makes it the 17th most valuable company on the Uganda Securities Exchange in terms of the year-to-date performance. Shareholders' worries are compounded by the fact that 79% has been dropped off in the recent few weeks. But, of course, like I said, this is explained by the bonus shares that were released by the company, over 12.5 billion new shares. The shares outstanding, however, now this is minus the new shares that were created in the bonus issue, are 2.5 billion. 2.5 billion shares currently. When you get that amount to market capitalization, you have about 40 billion based on the current price, the baseline figure. However, when you look at the actual shares right now, because we've raised the stake by 12.5 billion shares, definitely it's much higher, as of course we witness the buying out of these new shares that were issued by the company. Yesterday, there were 6,500 shares that were bought at exactly 104,000 Ugandan shillings. And that was, of course, the closure of trading yesterday at 1 p.m. However, also in the last 3 months, it's quite important to note that Bank of Baroda Uganda has been the fourth most traded on stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange. From the 15th of March to the 20th of June, they have realized at least a total volume of 9.75 million shares valued at 794 million Ugandan shillings over the period, with an average of about 749,000. So it's quite a tradable stock with quite some interest from the public in the stock, according to, of course, data we've collected in the last 3 months, meaning we can at least be sure that we shall find buyers and sellers at a certain point whenever we might need them. There was also Equity Bank Limited amongst the gainers. We had Equity Bank at least add 0.19% value to their shareholding and closed at 980.02 Ugandan shillings. The Nation Media Group company as well shedded off 0.06% and was up to 540 Ugandan shillings, whereas Kenya Airways added 0.06% up to 101.04 Ugandan shillings. On the losing side, unfortunately, DFCU Bank came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 14.84%, down to 264 Ugandan shillings, and the KCB stock was down by 4.95% at 776.89 Ugandan shillings closing for the Monday trading. DFCU Bank, when you look at their current market performance, is quite coming back to its feet. However, it's on and off. They are longer in the longer term. The company has performed quite poorly. When you look at their quarterly performance, we are looking at losses of 49.2% in price, and their 4-week performance is at 14.8% depreciation. Weekly performance at 14.8% depreciation. Yesterday they didn't trade any volume, but their price actually dropped by 46 Ugandan shillings, from an average of about 300 shillings to 264.0 shillings. Market capitalization currently is at 198 billion Ugandan shillings, currently holding the 11th most valuable stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Quite absurd a little bit there for DFCU Bank. Last year they didn't issue a dividend. This year I'm not sure if they will give us a dividend as well. And so there's been quite a lot of questions concerning the DFCU Bank stock. However, looking at the trade, we have at least the bank coming in the 8th position in as far as trading in the last 3 months is concerning. And when you look at their volumes, at least 7,503 shares have been traded within the period. of the last 3 months. That's DFCU Bank stock for you there. KCB, nothing was traded. And then Jubilee Holdings Limited had a 2.58% drop down to at least 4,860 with no single share traded. Equity East African Breweries Limited rather also had a drop of 2.5% down to at least 4,198 Ugandan shillings. Centum dropped off 1.96% down to 230.56. And MTN stock at least lost 0.02% down to 169.97 Ugandan shillings. That's currently what we have on the Uganda Securities Exchange. But amongst the movers or the participants in the trade, like I mentioned, we had Bank of Baroda, but we also had Stanbic Bank Uganda recording the highest volume of 732,600 shares on the market. Stanbic Bank Uganda maintains the #1 trading position in volumes. When you look at their volumes in the last 3 months, they have been growing steadily, with now the mark at 140 million shares over the last 3 months, and the 3.6 billion Ugandan shillings turnover on that volume as well. That's a quite interesting performance from Stanbic Bank Uganda. Remember, as per their audited financial statements, they made a profit of at least 366 billion within their last financial year, 2021-2022. And that's, of course, as per their audited financial statements. And Stanbic Bank Uganda also declared a good dividend there for their shareholders, which is quite something you should be checking out if you're a shareholder. But I'm sure their book closure date is not yet up, so you can still be able to buy shares if you want to take part in that dividend share at the end of their book closure date. And that's Stanbic Bank Uganda for you. Very interesting, very affordable, very accessible stock for you as a new investor or as an old investor. The MTN Uganda company at least also traded 37,321. Remember, this is the last company that we had listing so far on the exchange. And currently they hold a stock of about 3.81 trillion and over about 22 floated on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Traded volumes yesterday were 37,321 and ended the day with a loss of 0.03 shillings on the price of MTN stock, with the price dropping to 169.97 Ugandan shillings per share. Looking at their turnover, they collected a total of 6.34 million Ugandan shillings after the day's trade. MTN Uganda is now currently the third most traded on stock, coming behind Stanbic and Wumeme. So positions haven't changed that much in the last 1 week or in the last quarter as well. And when you look at the March, from March 15th to 20th of June, they have traded at least over 31.2 million shares in the period. Now compare that to the 160 million shares of Stanbic Bank Uganda. That's quite a distance, which I don't think MTN can catch up with. But at least this is also a good performance from MTN Uganda. Also, MTN declared a dividend, remember, for their last year's performance, with registration of a very good profit, and something also you should be checking out as well if you are a shareholder with MTN, or if you would want to be a shareholder at MTN Uganda. MTN brought a lot of convenience to the market. For the first time, we were able to buy shares using our phones as well, using our mobile money, using a USSD code. We were able to also open Securities Central Depository accounts, which is still in place, because today, if you want to open an SCD account, you can use your MTN line. You can just simply dial *165*57# and you can open the account absolutely free of charge. And that is the convenience MTN has brought to the market. We really do appreciate that fact. Away from MTN Uganda, we still had Wumeme record 18,764 shares. Wumeme has currently been steady with their price at 440 Ugandan shillings, their highest price in the last couple of years. When you look back even to 2021, The highest price in 2021 was about 240. When you look back to 2020, their highest price was around 300 shillings or 255. And when you look back in 2019, their highest price was 300 shillings. Really, MTN is Wumeme is at its peak, if we could say, right now. And definitely there's no one interested in selling, or they are, but probably very few, and probably they would want a higher price than the current price. So you definitely have Wumeme's issue sorted and kind of sealed. Yesterday they traded 18,764 shares, and this was after a total volume of value of about 8.26 million was transacted. Outstanding shares at 1.62 billion shares, and then we have 715 billion market capitalization. Their 6-month performance has continued to be the highest at 110% appreciation in the last 6 months. That's quite interesting, because now we are halfway the year, meaning if we are in June, we are comparing January to June, and you have a value of 110%. That's quite awesome. When you look at their 1-year performance or year-on-year performance, exactly 1 year back, you are looking at an appreciation of about 83.3%. The current share price is 440, and this is up from 275 at the beginning of the year. That is the 110% that I am talking about. Wumeme is also the second most traded on stock in the last 3 months, and has traded at least a volume of 37.4 million shares in the period, with a 15 billion turnover on the market. That's Wumeme trade for you there. That's it from the Uganda Securities Exchange. But of course, the market indices, the Uganda Securities Exchange All Share Index dropped up some value at 14 points, and this is down to 1,018 points at the end of the day, because of course of the losses, especially on the cross listings such as East African Breweries Limited, and of course the few number of gainers on the market with the slight margin, like Bank of Baroda, and a few stocks that gained by very slight margins. But the local company index also dropped off some value due to losses on MTN Uganda, and this was down to by 0.45% to 271 points on the Uganda Securities Exchange local company index. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to move to Nairobi and have a look at the 66 listings on the Nairobi Securities Exchange and how their performance was like. Now, we had 45 of the 66 listings participating in trade on the Uganda Nairobi Securities Exchange, ending the day with 19 gainers and at least 15 losers. Sanlam Kenya at least led the gainers with a 9.69% appreciation in price, upwards to 7.7 Kenyan shillings. And Uchumi Supermarket returned in the game with a 9% gain, as well as Wumeme Uganda with a 5.92%. Well, Wumeme is still doing good at Nairobi Securities Exchange as per this data. Just looking at yesterday, their price was at 17 Kenyan shillings. And this was after 4 deals were done and 11,900 shares were transacted. At the stock, we have at least 3.34% appreciation in 1 week and 21% appreciation in the past 1 month on the Wumeme stock on Nairobi Securities Exchange. Other gainers included Diamond Trust Bank, that appreciated by 2.69%. Of course, it's Diamond Trust Bank Kenya. On the losing side, Longhorn Publishers came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of at least 6.1%, down to 2.73 Kenyan shillings per share. Home Africa at least also lost 5.71%, and Flame Tree Group Holdings at least lost about 3.82%, with Stanbic Holdings at least losing about 3.15%. Homeboys Entertainment remained the highest trader with the biggest volume of 6.15 million shares that were transacted. Just like the day before, Homeboys Entertainment remained on top of their game. Safaricom came in the second position with 1.43 million shares, and Kenya Power and Lighting Company with 382,000. Regarding, of course, the performance of the indices, the benchmark index, the all share index, at least climbed 0.34 points up to at least 103.73 points. And this is a weekly gain of 2.02% and a 4-week gain of 5.29%. And that's the trading, my friend, from the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Moving across to the United States, the stocks ended the session lower on Tuesday as investors awaited the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell testimony and eyed, of course, potential headwinds with the recent rally, including the concerns about China's economy and the United States dollar. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average at least fell by 0.71% or more than 200 points, whereas the S&P 500 at least was down by 0.47%, while the Nasdaq Composite dropped off at least 0.16%. Worries about the health of China's economy, the second biggest in the world, including, of course, Beijing, persisted as, of course, Beijing's latest cut on key lending rates fell short of the hopes. Markets are also bracing for Powell's two-day testimony, which is starting today on the 22nd, rather, and it's going to be carried out in the House committee, set to start Wednesday morning and then end on Thursday evening. And of course, watching for any clues to whether policymakers will be resuming the rate hiking at the Federal Reserve in their earlier campaign, of course, this year. Of course, that's something a bit to look out for in the United States. There talk with the Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve Chairman, as well as a talk about the strength of the United States dollar and China's rising, of course, resilience within the economies of the world. That is something you must look out for. Thank you so much for tuning in and for watching Smart 24 TV. A lot more business is coming in your way. We have, of course, live feed coming in from the East African Community post-budget dialogue there with Siatini. And so you need to stay tuned to know what are, of course, what is the expectations post the budget? What next? How are we going to implement the 52.37 trillion budget ahead of time? And of course, more, of course, from UG to Kole and Skill Up later on in the day will be happening. As of course, you can see events right now coming in from the East African Community post-budget dialogue for the financial year 2023-2024, especially concerning tax and debt. That is something you don't want to miss out on. Our journalists are there and they're going to be giving you all the matters as they do unfold. My name is Anthony. I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. Have a very wonderful day. Good day for now. See you tomorrow.
Smart 24